Hey friend, welcome to Healthy with Heather Brown. If you don't know where to start with balancing being healthy and loving the life you already have, I got you, friend. And yes, of course, we're still going to enjoy some Chick-fil-A. I'm here to come alongside you and encourage you to fall more in love with your creator, your spouse, your kids, and your own health journey. We'll talk about how to let your good things grow until they become daily habits, with the occasional dad joke and point of view from my Yankee hubby, Eric. Don't stress. Let's hop on this Hot Mess Express together. So join me, Heather Brown, as we unpack what it looks like to live a life well loved. Welcome back to another episode of Healthy with Heather Brown, you guys. I am really amped today about today's guest because you guys were so excited about her. In fact, when we first launched the show back in August and I asked for suggestions on who to bring onto the show, so many of you said, "Oh my gosh, do you follow Risen Motherhood? You have to get them on," this, that, and the other. So without further ado, welcome today to Laura Wifler, who is part of Risen Motherhood. Welcome, Laura.
Thank you for having me. That was such a kind introduction. I'm just thrilled to be here.
Yeah, girl. I'm like, our people already love you, so you can do no wrong here.
Good. This is a nice, warm, safe space. I love it.
That's right. That's right. So for anybody that maybe for some reason, doesn't know who you are, tell a little bit about your background and your new book. Tell us all the things going on in your life right now.
Oh, so fun. Yes. Well, yeah, my name is Laura Wifler, and I am the co-founder and executive director of Risen Motherhood. And if you're not familiar with the ministry, Risen Motherhood is a nonprofit, and basically our whole goal is to help moms connect their faith to their motherhood. So we just want to draw a big line between that Sunday morning sermon to the Monday morning snotty nose. We want to help moms connect those two things. So we do that through podcasts and articles and social media posts and all sorts of stuff. It is just a wonderful time over there, and it's absolutely one of my dream jobs. But then kind of the other half of my life, I am an author and a writer. And so I have the privilege of being able to produce resources for moms and kids and families. And so, as you mentioned, my latest project is a book called Like Me, and it's a book for all families, really, but it focuses in on what it looks like to have a child with special needs in the family. And really, it's designed to help kids understand just the beauty of disabilities and how it doesn't have to be strange or mysterious, but really can be something where they can find sameness with one another and discover friendship. So that's kind of my work. And then outside of that, I have 3 kids. So I thankfully am a mom. Since I'm running Risen Motherhood, I think I should have a couple kids.
For sure. Good qualifier.
That's right. So I have 3 kiddos, and I live in central Iowa with my husband. And yeah, that's about the one-on-one on Laura Wifler, I guess.
I love it. Laura, how long have you been married now?
13 years this summer.
Oh my God. Wait, 2008?
2000. When was I married? I was married 2010.
Okay. We were married in 2008. Years? So we're like right around your time. And I'm always like, how many years has it been? So you just saved me. Thank you.
Yeah, you've been married longer than me. That's awesome.
Yes. Well, we were college sweethearts. So,
Oh, so fun.
Eric actually joins me after each guest comes on, and we do a marriage corner is what we call it on the podcast. And so you'll have to listen back to the episode to hear his hot take on all the things that we talk about today.
I love that. I will definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us a little bit about your kids. Tell us about who has disabilities. How have you been training your kids? What that looks like when maybe somebody asks them, what's going on with your sister or what have you?
Of course. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I have 3 kiddos. They are 10, 8. Oh no, 9, 8. Why am I jumping ahead there? 9, 8, and 5. And it's my youngest who has disabilities. She has a very rare genetic condition. So rare, in fact, that she's actually kind of the only one that doctors know of in the world with what she has. It's so pretty wild. Crazy. I know, but there are many people out there actually like her, all with just very unique diagnoses. So it falls under this umbrella called rare chromo that helps to just give families some support. But in general, every child is so unique. And this is the way it is with all disabilities, right? Where you may even be given a spectrum. It may be your child has Down syndrome or autism or anything, but the spectrum is so wide that you really don't know what to predict. So with our daughter, she was diagnosed at 2 months old. So we knew pretty quickly that something different was happening. But over the years, it's just been this unfolding of getting to understand who she is and what she would be able to do and what she would be like. So the disabilities affect her globally. So that just means her whole body, cognitive, physical, occupational therapy, like fine motor skills, all sorts of things. But she is a joy and so much fun. And not everyone can see me, but I'm just smiling thinking about her and just how much joy she has in one tiny little body. So
awesome.
She's super cute. So in terms of just kind of how we're handling when kids ask, hey, what's going on with her and things like that, I think that's a really common question that kids have of, hey, why is she different? Or I remember one time we were headed to the pool with some new friends of my kids, and they had not spent time around our youngest daughter. And our youngest daughter was like jabbering, she gets to the pool and she's very excited. She's talking about pretzel bites, this food we get at the concession stand. She's talking about the water at the pool, but really, if you don't know her well, you didn't understand any of that. And so the friend kind of giggles awkwardly, and my youngest daughter wants to hold her hand and do all these things to engage. And the friend is feeling a little uncomfortable. My older daughter, who does not have disabilities, just because the story is so long, to be very clear, she says to the new friend, she just says, that's okay that you don't understand her. She still makes a really good friend. And
I love that so much. Wow. I'm like straight to the heart. Oh, I'm teary-eyed just with that. Dang.
Oh, I know. It was one of those moments where, I really can't take credit for that, but I want to take credit.
Yeah. I'm like, wow. I'm like, but you do get to take credit because you raised your daughter and she learned to say things like that from you. That's awesome.
Oh, that's kind of you. Yeah, it was one of those moments where I just felt like, oh, Lord, that is so kind of you to just give that little moment of feeling like all the training that we're doing is amounting to something. And, when I talk with my kids, that's really the heartbeat of what we talk about with disabilities, is to say, it's okay that we don't understand how they speak, but we can tell that they're joyful. And so we can be happy along with them. Or it's okay that we don't understand exactly why they're moving in that way. Like, we can just enjoy that they're dancing or they're having a good time, or we can tell that they're sad and we want to be kind to them in that sadness. And so a lot of times when kids are feeling like, hey, I don't understand this behavior, it's because they're looking to categorize that child. Kids are doing this all the time. They're out in the world and they're trying to figure out how to make sense of it. And when they meet another friend who perhaps doesn't fit their mold, their little minds are quickly working to say, okay, where can I fit this person, or what category does this go in? And often what I found is it just takes just a nudge from an adult or another parent to say, hey, here's how you can categorize that child, or here's how you can think about that child. And it removes a lot of that mystery. So it really doesn't take much, but a little bit of training.
Now, let me ask you, Laura. So, the question I'm probably about to ask you, because I think it's the one that most parents wonder when your kid does kind of start to be like, ooh, how do I categorize this person? And you're in the grocery store and they're saying at the top of their lungs, Mommy, what's that thing she's on with wheels? Can I ride in that? Or like all those questions. And you're like, oh my gosh. Yep. First of all, just volume. Let's have a volume conversation about we're inside. Second of all, like, what do you feel like that helpful conversation looks like? What would you encourage mamas listening to this to say to their kids that you've learned firsthand, obviously?
Totally. Well, first of all, I would just say for all moms out there, we have heard it all. There's nothing your child has probably said that's going to surprise or shock us. But I also have lots of compassion because even my regularly developing kids, my older kids, they are around disabilities all the time. And they still have said things like, what is that? Regarding different things. And so just know that I stand in solidarity with all of you, first of all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's not a reflection of your parenting. This is a very normal process for kids to go through. So really, at the end of the day, all that you need to think about is less so about your child's response to that and more so about what your response will be. So thinking through saying, okay, like you responding in a calm manner. So instead of doing what we all naturally want to do, and I have done before, which is to say, shh, don't do that. Don't talk about that. Instead, just answer honestly and say, oh, that's a wheelchair. That helps that person get where they want to go. So that's the first step, is just answer it honestly, give the facts of what it is as best as you can. You don't have to be word perfect. And I know sometimes we can be nervous because we don't know all the actual words or anything like that, but do as best you can. And then what I like to encourage parents to do is to move the conversation one step further and show sameness. So again, that child is trying to categorize that wheelchair user in their mind and figure out, what should I think about this? Should this be scary and strange, or is this just, another part of life? And so you can encourage sameness by saying, isn't it so cool that their wheelchair is blue? You love the color blue. I love that. That's so fun. Or, maybe they're wearing like little braces on their legs, and a lot of kids have prints on them like footballs or something and say, oh, don't you love playing football? Isn't that cool? They must like football too, because that's on their little leg braces or their AFOs. And so we can draw that connection for kids. And when we model an attitude of acceptance and of just peace around those things, kids pick up on that and they're going to reflect that back to you.
Yeah, I really love that. And I think that is such a good lesson for so many different things. Like we're talking about inclusion. I do feel like inclusion is kind of like a hot button topic right now, if you will. So let me ask you this. I kind of feel like with us seeing, so much coming up about inclusion of all different looks, ages, races, stages of life, this, that, and the other. What, I guess, do you feel like in our culture, do you feel like there's such a huge focus on inclusion? What bothers you about how it maybe sometimes doesn't include disabilities as much? And how do you think as a church and as moms, we can help tackle that well?
That is a really good question. I'm really glad that you asked that. So yeah, the inclusion conversation is one that is really interesting. Something to kind of maybe back up with a little bit and lay the groundwork for is that the disability conversation has often followed civil rights. So it has come a little bit behind a lot of the progress that we make in other areas.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So if you look into the history, it's fascinating. But oftentimes those groups, the Black groups, the LGBTQ groups, and the disability groups would actually band together to make progress in these things. And so what we heard a lot about was civil rights, but there were a lot of groups banding together to make progress in a lot of different areas. And so if you look
back in the 50s, you're saying?
Yes, 50s, 60s, 70s, all of that time. And so disabilities has not received as much awareness of those things, but that's also because it's been, a handful of years behind. And we've made a ton of progress, particularly in the United States, with how we treat the disabled, with the rules and protections and laws that we have around them. But the ADA only came into effect. That's the main American Disabilities Act. That's the main thing that came into effect in 1994. I feel like I'm going to get my number wrong, but it was in the 90s.
Hey, look, but you're modeling what you just told parents to do. Get as close as you can to the facts with your kids when you're talking about disabilities, and then nobody's going to fault you for it.
That's right. We're going to say it like we know it. You guys can check me later. So with that, I think we've made tons of progress, but that's really recent. I know some of your listeners will probably be like, I was born in 1994, and I get that. But, in me and you, we probably remember those years. And there has been so much great progress that has been made, but there's also so much great work to be done. And so right now, I think we've seen legislation catch up for those with disabilities, which I'm immensely grateful for. Now, what you're talking about, which is inclusion, we have a lot of heart work to do, particularly in the church, but also in the greater culture. And what that really means is right now, inclusion typically means tolerance. So that means I have made a space for you. There is a chair in this room. There is representation in a book, something like that. So we have a spot. But as a mother to a child with disabilities, my heart and hope is that inclusion would move from tolerance to friendship. And that instead of inclusion meaning, yep, we've got a spot for you. Instead, inclusion would mean, no, I'm including you in relationship. I have a heart that enjoys my time with you. I want to have you here. And so you asked, hey, how does the church and how do we as moms foster that? And there are many things, but I really believe the first thing is truly education. And it's moms slowing down to say, this is an important topic to teach my kids about. It's just as important as teaching them, all the other virtues that we want to teach our kids, all the other history that we want to teach our kids. Disabilities has often been just one of those, well, I don't know anyone with disabilities, or I don't have a personal story with it, so we'll just leave that for later. But the reality is you will encounter people with disabilities. Even if you are very sheltered in your home, you'll see someone at a school, or you'll see someone, out at the mall or on the street while you're shopping, whatever it may be. And you want to have preparatory conversations already in play to explain what the Imago Dei is, why all people have dignity. We don't want to move with pity. We want to move with compassion that offers dignity. And those are conversations that start in the home. So I'm excited for this next generation because I really believe there's a warmth to saying, okay, we've got all this legislation in place, but what does that really mean person to person? What does that look like? And I think there's a lot of hope to be had.
One of the most popular questions I hear is, how do you do it all? Or, can I pick your brain? And I always laugh because my knee-jerk reaction is, oh girl, I don't do it all. And now I have a way to let you pick my brain about my business. I have an incredible team of women helping me manage my crazy behind the scenes and keeping My Life Well Loved and this podcast running smoothly. Because Lord knows I'd be a hot mess express trying to do it all myself. This year, I launched a course where I finally do a deep dive and share all the raw details about how I built my business and team to where it is today. My COO, Alyssa, and I recorded over 2 hours of video into 9 lessons to create a course that reviewers are saying is unlike anything else out there. Hey, their words, not mine. But hold on, the videos aren't all. I'm going to read you my list of what it includes so I don't forget any of it. There's a 28-page workbook with questions to move you from stuck as a solopreneur to thriving as a team, or even just hiring your first assistant, with smart goals and steps to guide you from point A to point B efficiently. A behind-the-scenes look at our application, hiring process, and critical onboarding process, my cannot-miss first step in hiring a new employee, and how to cultivate a team buy-in. There's a deep dive on my team's inner workings, our operating systems, favorite apps, and index full of time-saving tools we use to keep our team running smoothly. If you're ready to take your business, side hustle, or network marketing lifestyle to the next level and grow a team, I'm your girl. Head to www.mylifewellloved.com/team to grab yours today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so encouraging, I think, for women, especially Christian women, to hear, because there are so many things we're hearing in the news and in culture right now that are kind of like, whoa, this is a lot to take in.
I know.
So I'm kind of going to throw you a curveball here, and you can be like, I don't want to answer that, and that's fine. But while we are talking about inclusion and what that looks like, and you talked about, how it's piggybacked off of LGBTQ community and also civil rights, what does that look like for you as a mom, having conversations with your kids in your home right now about, well, that person looks different, and I'm not sure if they're a boy or a girl. I think just as Christian women right now, that is a conversation that I don't think that I would have thought that I would have had to have. I'm a 1995 baby.
You're a 95 baby.
85, boo.
Oh,
85.
I thought you said 95. I apologize. I was like,
No.
I just got done saying, I'm pretty sure you remember. Okay.
No, I'm not highly offended. You're good. I am as old as you think I am.
When you told me when you were married that you look young, oh man, I feel like I'm just digging a hole right now.
Nope. You're great. I got married at 22. So yes. But what does that conversation look like for you with your kids when they say something in the grocery store like, Mom, is that a boy or a girl? How are you tackling that with the foundation of the Bible? There's just a lot of factors at play, I feel like, especially for you.
That's a really good question. And, I'm navigating this right alongside all the other moms. And so I probably don't have all the perfect answers. But what I would say is the same conversation that we're talking about with disabilities and saying, hey, that starts in the home. I do think as parents, we have to be proactive in our homes before we ever encounter the world outside. And, my kids haven't personally asked me that exact question of, hey, are they a boy or a girl in front of other people? But I have friends that have had that same situation happen. And I think one of the big things I really try to instill in my children is Imago Dei. And, Imago Dei just means made in the image of God. And that means all people are made in the image of God. He made them man and he made them woman, and establishing that foundation from a young age. And along with that, so we have sort of the boundaries and the guidelines that God set in place that we want to help our children understand. It is wonderful to be a boy. It's wonderful that God made you a girl. Whatever God decided, that is so good. And so we talk about that a lot in our home. And then on top of that, we often just talk about, what does it mean to be made Imago Dei? Well, that means that you are loved by God, that your worth and value is in God. And also every other person on the planet has inherent dignity that doesn't change based on what they do, based on what they look like, based on how they act. And so we want to treat all people with kindness and respect. Yeah. And that's where I think with my kids, and they're at an old enough age too. So again, I want to say, if your child is asking, hey, what is that person? Or how do I categorize that person? That's not necessarily a reflection on your parenting that you're not doing those things. But I think that we can start by helping our kids see, hey, how do we respect other people? And we don't need to comment on those things. We don't need to speak in those loud voices. Or if you have a question, ask me quietly in the car afterwards. And so there are just some things that we can also prepare our kids in for how to love other people well by just showing respect and kindness that we would want to show anyone, regardless of who they are. And I think that's a big piece of the privilege it is to know other people, any human being. It is just a beautiful, enormous privilege. And that we can trust God in all of that, that he's going to guide our conversations with our kids and that he's going to protect things. And I often just remind myself, like, Lord, just protect my kids' ears, protect other people's ears from what my kids say out of their innocence,
Yes.
out of their curiosity, and just trusting God to guide me.
Yes. There's so much wisdom you just spoke right there. So I'm like, y'all, woo, so good. We've touched a little bit on the church and what it looks like to have the church help us almost propel this inclusion also, and not just inclusion, but really creating a seat to love them well. Can you talk a little bit about how church and culture at large are focused on noticing and celebrating differences right now? And then you say it's important to focus on the sameness too. And you've touched on that some throughout this conversation, but do you mind just elaborating a little bit more on what that might look like and how it day to day plays out in your life, especially in regards to the church, I guess?
Yeah, I think you're right. So there's this beautiful, wonderful conversation going on about differences in the church and how we should celebrate them. And that, this is how we learn and we grow. And that is very true. Having friends who are different from us, it's how we can change our minds on different situations. We open up our worldview. We learn new things. I mean, it is so valuable to have friends who do not look like us, act like us, have the same history or culture as us. But even science would show, so secular science would show that two people become friends, not because of differences or in spite of differences. They become friends because they found at least one thing that they are the same in. And so it might be, there's a scientific word for it, but I can't quite recall it. But basically, what it means is that two people, no matter how different they are, at some point they figured out, hey, we like to eat the same kind of food, or we like the same movies, or our moms were kind of similar growing up and we can swap stories. Whatever it is, there's one thing that created that friendship, no matter how different someone looks on paper or on the outside. And so that has been really compelling for me to understand as a mom to a child with disabilities. As I think about people who have disabilities, oftentimes it does feel like, well, what do I have in common with them? And how on earth could I make a friendship with them? And that's where, my book, Like Me, comes in, and conversations parents can have with other kids with helping them categorize, where we want to show that there is sameness across all people. And of course, like I mentioned, it starts with being made in the image of God. Like that right there, you have a deep, transcendent connection with every person that you could ever meet on this planet, simply because you were made in the image of God and so were they. So that means as Christians, we don't even need to look for, same food or the same, talents or giftings or hobbies, whatever it might be. We don't have to look for that. We can just know, hey, you and me, we share this God connection, this connection of knowing that we are children of God. And so that is a huge gift for the Christian, because when we know we're loved and we are operating out of a place of being wholly loved, regardless of what we do and say and all those things, then we can offer that love freely to other people, no matter how different they are to us. And so that's where I feel like I want to take every believer on the planet and just get that under their skin.
Yes.
I want them to know how deeply they are loved by God and how that never changes. And then how they can offer that to other people with just generosity in their hearts to say, this isn't really about me. Every relationship isn't about me. It's actually can be about the other person, because I already know that I am fully accepted and known in God. And that's like an incredible place to be operating out of.
Hi, friend. Are you enjoying this episode? Hit that plus sign in the top right of your Apple Podcast app, or the follow button in your Spotify app, or wherever you're listening. That way you automatically get each new episode without having to search for it. You're welcome. Now, Laura, I'm shifting gears a little bit here, but I'm just curious to hear, I'm sure you probably hear this question all the time. How do you do it all? You've got 3 kids, one with a disability. You have a lot of balls in the air. For those that don't know, she does have the Risen Motherhood podcast. You guys have done books. Now you have this new book coming out. Talk with us a little bit about some of your key down and dirty takeaways for how you manage all the things.
Oh, this is a fun question. I actually don't get asked this very often on podcasts.
Okay,
I love it. Yeah. So I think one big thing for me is that I know moms will probably resonate with this, or any woman who's listening will resonate, is that we're constantly kind of looking for that balance, right? We're looking for that right amount between family time and work time and, investing in the community time and church and whatever. And
literally fighting tooth and nail for it. Yes, fighting tooth and nail for the balance.
exactly. Everyone's seeking elusive balance. And I'll never forget this picture this woman did one day at a small conference that I was at. She stood up. I was serving on a panel. She was on the panel. And she stood on one leg and she said, look how I'm looking for balance. And she was constantly kind of wiggling and shaking. And she even at one point had to put down her other foot and like re-find it. And she was like, this is what balance is in life. You never actually have it. You're always trying to find it. And I think so often we think I'm going to find balance and then at least I'll have it for 3 or 4 months. Like at least, it'll stay for a little while. And when I saw that picture that she gave, that visual, I just thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to stop looking for balance. Instead, I want to seek stewardship.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So what that kind of means is that in my life, there are seasons where work will be more busy. And like right now, I'm in a busier season for work with the book launch and with some stuff we're doing at Risen Motherhood. It's fun. It's exciting, but I know it's not going to last forever. So right now I'm saying, okay, how do I steward these things well? And of course, putting my family, prioritizing them. But that also might mean that like I'm not spending as much time as I spend with my kids in other seasons, or I'm not as available to serve a friend as I might be in another season. But I know this season will come to an end in a couple months and I'm not going to have as much work. And that's when I can pour into other friends who might need assistance or serve at my local church or different things. And it doesn't mean that I'm removing one block and only doing one thing for a time, but it has helped to kind of say, hey, it's okay that there is an ebb and flow in my life. And that sometimes will be more family heavy. Like when my daughter goes through bigger surgery seasons and she has more needs for her health, well, of course, my life is going to be more pivoted towards her and towards my family. But then there are other times, being a working mom who does work full time, that sometimes I'm going to be working 40, 50 hours a week. And I work in weird hours. You don't even want to know how I get my work done.
Same. I understand. I'm a night owl, so I get it.
Work from home, right? It's just like, boundaries. But I think that it has been a helpful way for me to think through how to, quote, do it all. I don't do it all, of course. No person does. But I think that has helped give me freedom to say, Lord, how do I be faithful right now? And how do I just receive what you've given me? And how do I steward that in a way that is faithful? And, I want to be doing what I do until I am 60, 70, 80 years old. Like, I really hope that I am able to continue being in ministry, loving on my kids as their adult kids. And if the Lord would grant me 80 years, I hope that I am still being able to do ministry at that time. And I know that one of the ways, and the Lord may call me away into a different season, into something else that I can't predict. But I know that a huge key to that is saying, okay, how do right now I be faithful in stewarding what he's given me? And that might mean saying no to things at certain times because my family needs me. And it might mean other times giving myself a stretching yes and being able to walk in something that it feels like he's brought into our lives. And my husband and I are nodding along, but it means being nimble and not being steadfast and saying, hey, this is my schedule. This is what I want. This is how I set it up. Why isn't it working? But instead saying, okay, Lord, whatever you have for me, I receive.
You talking about that was reminding me about a conversation that I just had with my girlfriend. She used to be a counselor. She's a blogger. She gave it a go. And she was telling me that they just sang the song at church on Sunday. It's by Shane and Shane. It's the where goodness and mercy will follow me all my days song. And it is just so good. I'll link it in the show notes if y'all haven't heard it. But it's based on, is it Psalm
23?
23. That's right. But anyway, she just was talking with me about, Heather, God doesn't call us to figure out the long-term game plan. He calls you to the next step. And so she was like, you're going to trust him for just that next step. And then he's going to continue to reveal and open doors and shut doors as you pray for them to be open and closed. And so I just think that was such a good reminder for me this morning. I know I needed. So thank you for reinforcing what I was already, the Lord was already working in my heart.
I love that.
So
I love
super
that.
Cool. Well, I know we both have kids' parties to get to today.
Yes.
So I'm going to wrap this up quickly. I'm going to ask you our final question that we ask everybody that comes on the show. And you guys don't worry, I will link everywhere that you can find Risen Motherhood, where you can find Laura in the show notes, as well as her new book, which is so exciting. And I'm also going to link to Laura, you'll find this interesting. One of my very best friends, Katie Maddox, was on a girlfriend's roundtable with me on the podcast earlier this season. And she has a little boy who has disabilities. And so we talked a lot about this. And she just was sharing with me how meaningful what you have shared online has been in her life personally. So she was like, please tell Laura I said she's amazing and to keep sharing what she's sharing. So wanted to give you that word of encouragement. And we'll link back to that episode if you want to hear someone else that is in that same boat, if that is your journey. But my final question for you, Laura, is what is your favorite thing in your health journey that's making you feel like yourself right now? And that can just be anything that makes you feel like you. It could be mental health, spiritual health, physical health.
So good. Okay. True confessions. I haven't shared this publicly at all. I joined Orange Theory recently. I have never done group exercise. I'm not even quite certain what you call it, but I've just done kind of home workouts. I have a home gym. I'm really thankful for it. And I'm a self-disciplined person. So I've just worked out at home. But recently, a bunch of my girlfriends here in town were like, we're joining Orange Theory. We're going to get in shape for 23. And I was like, okay, I'll try it out,
Yes.
And now I'm totally addicted to it. It is so good. It's such a hard workout. I feel like I'm going to sound like an advertisement, and I don't mean to, but I really enjoyed just feeling physically exhausted. And how I first got into exercise was when I was writing the Risen Motherhood book. I had just had my youngest daughter. Things were very stressful in my life. And so I started exercising just by going out on these old gravel roads here in Iowa. And I was like, I just need to think about the book. I need to figure out what I'm going to write. I need to write these chapters in my head. And so I gradually started running, and it became this great stress relief where I felt like my body was as tired as my soul. I needed my external to feel as exhausted as my internal. And there was something almost healing about that for me. And prior to that, if you knew me, I was a foo-foo. I don't exercise, like me.
Right.
And, when we're young, lots of people do that, but then you get old and you realize, no, exercise is wonderful.
It's very important.
Yes, it's important your whole life, but sometimes you need that wake up call. And so it's just been really incredible to kind of see. I've had a big journey with fitness, and Orange Theory has kind of been the latest thing. It's just funny that you would ask, because I've been thinking about what a gift it's been to have people to exercise with and to have accountability. And so it's been really fun.
Well, the mind-body connection is so fascinating to me. So I taught bar for a decade. And so I really honed in on learning those things. And what I have found is that I really almost now, like, I have to have the movement to almost like match the intensity going on in my mind and my body. And it's such a good physical, like you were saying, a physical and mental, all the things really.
Yes. That's right.
Anyway, well, Laura, thank you so much for joining us today. It was a freaking blast to have you.
It was really fun. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Well, you guys, thanks again for joining me and Laura today. It was such a hoot chatting with her. I loved getting to laugh with her and then talk about serious things. I cheered up a few times. I wrote down tons of quotes she was saying. So I am so thrilled that she got to come on today. And make sure that when you end this episode, you hit that follow button, and then make sure you go hit the follow button on Risen Motherhood, and make sure you keep really incredible women in your ear that the Lord is using to teach you new things about how to instill wisdom in your babies. It is more important now than ever, mama bears. So stay on it. Follow the people that are going to preach wisdom into your life. We love you so much. Have a great day. Talk to you next time.
If y'all think I'm a little crazy, just wait till my favorite guest joins me in the marriage corner. It's my hubby, Eric. Woo! Eric and I both just got back from the gym. Welcome back to the marriage corner, babe.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
So glad you showered.
Me too. I'm glad you showered too.
I know, I was pretty stinky.
You can get pretty
ripe,
a little stinky. But I do think more times than not, my gym bag can get pretty gross. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
So.
In fact, we have somebody coming over later today, and I was like, babe, do you mind just moving your gym bag a little bit, like maybe outside, let it air out a little bit so they don't have to be greeted with that scent at the door?
Or a lot of times I will get, can you just put your dirty gym clothes directly into the washer and dryer? And I'm like, yes, I can do that. So.
Yes, I definitely appreciate that.
You always know it's bad if you can smell your own clothes,
That is true. Ugh.
So I wouldn't say it's like a bad smell. It's just like your typical like gym sweat smell, right?
Yours?
Yeah.
Sure, babe. I will say there is a different bad gym smell for men than there is women. Would you agree with that?
Possibly. I don't go around sniffing other women at my gym, so I'm not Joe Biden.
Okay, smart.
Yeah.
I will say when I walk into Burn, it obviously, like, when there's a really sweaty day, you might smell some sweat. But you walk into Spartan Fitness, and I mean, it is like, it's
pretty pungent. It's going to hit you in the nose.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you've got wrestlers in there, jujitsu, so they're wearing their gis. So those are always, sweaty. I will say, Chris, who is the owner of Spartan Fitness, he is very big on personal hygiene, and he will kick your A out
if you don't. Well, that's good.
So I do appreciate that.
Yeah, oh, for sure. So Eric, you and I were talking a little bit about some interesting conversations that you've been thinking through recently. Do you mind kind of teeing up the audience to hear what we've been talking about recently?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited about this episode because I love to hear kind of your thoughts, and I put some thought on this as well too, but about predictions going into 2023. So I know this episode won't come out until, probably, when's it going to come out?
I think it's actually the end of February, so not too far away.
Oh, okay, perfect. So we will have some time to see if these predictions come true, but I wanted to get your thoughts on some predictions, and I've kind of come up with different categories to talk about, those categories being health in 2023, how trends or things might change in regards to health.
Okay.
Culture in general. Maybe food.
Okay.
As well as finances. So, or just the financial situation that we live in. And that can be a macro approach as far as the general economy, or of more like a micro approach as it pertains to family finances and things of that nature.
Yes. And just to give our audience, I guess, like a little bit of a taste of what to expect, I feel like my answers are going to be a lot more micro, like what I see with other moms and conversations with friends. And then I would say like fringe media sources that I look at on, social media or websites or Substack or whatever. Whereas I feel like you have a lot better pulse on like what Fox or CBS or like major, I guess, media would be saying about something. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree with that. But I think a lot of kind of my predictions come from personal anecdotes of people that I talk to or people that come up to me and ask me questions, whether it's about health or people that know my accounting background. They'll ask me about finances and things of that nature. But yeah, so we'll get to see if these 2023 predictions are accurate. They may be completely wrong. And we would love to hear your feedback if you think we may be right or we think we may be wrong. And also, too, maybe you can talk about 2022, some of the things we talked about that maybe we got right as far as things that we had talked about in 2022. Yeah.
I like that.
So, all right, I'm going to let you start off and you can pick the category that you want to start off with as far as predictions are concerned. So do you want to start with health? Do you want to talk about culture in general? Do you want to talk about, I guess, food and health could kind of go together, or do you want to talk about finances?
Oh, let's start with health. That's like my go-to. So,
all right. So do you want to start off with your 2023 prediction as far as health or food is concerned, or where you might see things going?
So I will say I have cheated a little bit on this one. Pinterest sets out like this thing of what they like predict coming up for the year. So one of the things that they've talked about is people really getting back into Paleolithic style movements, kind of going back to the basics a little bit. And then also working more into mobility and functionality. So I definitely think that those things are coming back around. And I think also that specifically for women are starting to realize like, okay, health isn't just for like the super athletes. It's really more for everyone. And like, what does that look like for me in my day-to-day life? And I feel like you guys that I'm talking to right now are like kind of my case study for that. I think it's so cool to hear, like you guys have told me, like I listen to you talk on the podcast and I don't want to walk a mile, but you told me like, even if you don't know where to start, just walk a mile so I can hear your voice in my head. So kind of just everyone being more willing to give exercise a go, even if their exercise means walking around the block versus getting in the gym.
So I completely agree with that. I think there is going to be kind of more of a pushback to get back to the basics. One of the things that I was kind of thinking about as far as 2023 is concerned, I think as we move forward, people are going to be looking towards the past to see what worked. And also kind of see as far as trends, what has increased in our diet over the past 50 years that has caused, the obesity epidemic to really explode over the past 20, 30 years. And I think a lot of people are becoming much more wise to how much sugar and added sugar is in our foods. You look back into the 1940s and the 1950s, I think I read a study where I can't remember the exact amount, but the average amount of sugar that a U.S. citizen consumed in 1 year about 50 years ago, I want to say was about 2 pounds of sugar for the entire year.
Wow.
And I think the most recent data shows that the amount of sugar an average American consumes per year is around 50 pounds.
Woo! Oh my
So
gosh.
I think, there's a lot of reasons, and you can get into the weeds as far as sugarcane and how the subsidies are involved with that, and how sugar is being pushed on food producers and then hence onto the consumers. But I really think that people are starting to wise up to how much sugar is added to our foods, how sugar in our diets, it seems that it is also potentiating increase in cancer rates as well. You talk to a lot of people, and I work with different oncologists, a lot of times they'll prescribe whole foods, trying to eliminate as much added sugars as possible, because the belief is that these sugars are just feeding the cancer cells. And I really think there's going to be a pushback as far as added sugar. And I hope people become just more aware of what added sugar does to our bodies.
Yes, for sure. And so my mom had a female reproductive organ type of cancer. So she actually has cut back her sugar intake significantly because of that, because her doctor, even, I guess that would have been about 10, 12 years ago at this point, even said at that time that he would like to see her limit her sugar for that reason. But I don't think that that's common knowledge at all. Do you?
I think people are becoming more aware of it. I think it's something that's been kept out of the general, I would say zeitgeist or, knowledge of the general public.
Sure.
And I really think that these low fat foods, things have been branded as low fat for so long, but really all they're doing is adding sugar. It's low fat, but they're adding sugar.
Adding sugar to help the taste.
And people have been essentially duped into believing, oh, this low fat butter, this low fat sour cream, this low fat whatever, low fat milk. Our parents back in the 40s and 50s, they were drinking whole milk, and you look at the way our parents were, or their parents, they were lean. They were, they were eating healthy. They were eating whole foods. And I think as people look more back on the past, they're going to say they were doing something right. And how can we implement that into our lives?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I also think that you guys, if I actually did a whole series, I did a sugar challenge on the website a while back. So I'm going to link that in the show notes. But sugar is also disguised as so many different names. And when you're looking at a label, make sure that you're looking for names like sucralose and different things it's a way that they're essentially like duping the public again into thinking there's no added sugar, but yet sucralose is listed, which is another name for sugar. And there's so many names for sugar. It's truly astounding.
For sure. So I've got one more prediction as far as health is concerned. And I would say this kind of ties into culture a little bit as well too. But I really think people are going to be more open to alternative medicines in the year of 2023. I think over the past 2 to 3 years, and I know COVID can be a touchy subject, but I really think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to alternative medicine, and not just here's a pill to fix all your problems. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there are definitely some medications, being a nurse practitioner, that are very helpful. But I also think over the past 2 to 3 years, people have lost a lot of confidence in these health authorities in our country, whether it's the CDC, the American Pediatric Board of Health, things of these nature that we're pushing, this is going to get a little political. We're pushing masks on people as young as 2 years old. And, just recently in the news, Rochelle Walensky, who is the head of the CDC, recently was in front of Congress, and somebody asked her, can you please explain to us why the US is the only major country that is still recommending masking for 2-year-olds? And, she gave this answer as far as, this is what our data shows. And, they mentioned what's called the Cochrane studies, which is it's a large study looking at numerous randomized controlled trials, which are the gold standard as far as studies are concerned. And it was looking at masking. And basically, you can go back and you can look through the study yourself. There are some questions, but numerous amounts of the studies within this study did actually look at COVID. And as far as masking, and the general consensus was that masking did very little to stop the spread of COVID-19. That all goes back to the point of people have lost a lot of trust in our institutions. I think this is going to lead to people looking to alternatives as far as health is concerned, whether that's not necessarily Eastern medicine, but just, different thoughts, and really looking more at metabolic health as opposed to just, here's a pill to fix your problem. Let's look at it holistically as far as, and this is what you do as well too, as far as mental health, relational health, physical health, all these things, mobility, like you mentioned, functional health. And I really think people are going to be open to that. And I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Well, and one thing that I was just listening to recently on a podcast, and it was a guy that actually was diagnosed with cancer, and he ended up like really deep diving into ways to treat cancer naturally. And it was really wild to listen to what he talked about and what he discovered about, just different systems and things that we have in place and how much money is made off of each cancer patient. And I think that is one thing that 2022 taught me, to your point that you have said earlier, is to follow the money. A lot of times I'm finding, okay, if the CDC or the Pediatric Association is recommending this, I'm going to follow the money first. And then I'm going to think more about a root cause. Like that's what Dr. John Archetype, my chiropractor that's been on before, I can link his past episode. He always talks about, okay, if you're breaking out, instead of just like slapping a medication on it, let's think about your root cause here. What's going on? And I know we need to shift to the next thing because we're talking too long about health, which I love.
Yeah.
But I'm like, we can sit here the whole time and do another prediction in the next episode. But I also think hormone health is going to become a really big trend that people are talking about a lot this year.
Oh, can I piggyback off of that real quick?
Yeah, do it.
So one of the big things I think as well too, and a lot of the listeners may have heard this or they may be taking this medication, which is fine. We have always said from the beginning that whatever decisions you make for your personal health or your family's health, that's a personal decision for you and your family. And we're never going to judge anybody for that. It's a very personal decision. But I do think one of the trends that there may be some pushback towards is these medications like Ozempic and some of these other medications that are basically for fat loss, but they really affect hormones. And a lot of them are used for their diabetes medications. And
oh my gosh, my girlfriends. I mean, this is coming up all the time right now.
So people are seeing great results. They're losing a lot of weight with these medications.
Quickly.
But the problem is with these medications is the minute you stop taking these medications, the weight is going to come back. You have to continue taking these medications. Also, too, we don't know the long-term studies of somebody that's not diabetic taking these medications and how that's going to affect your hormones or how you regulate your blood sugars, in the long term. I think this is one of these classic, and I hate to say it because probably some people are using this and they're probably having great effects, but I think it is going to be one of those fads where it's very popular. People are seeing great results, but I think it's just like any fad diet. We've seen them come and go, whether it be the Atkins diet, the
Weight Watchers,
all of these different fad diets. Really the only way to lose weight and keep it off is to maintain a healthy diet that is sustainable for you and really form those habits that you can do on a daily basis. All these quick fixes, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry to come up with these quick fixes. There's going to be some pushback against that in 2023, just as more and more people become skeptical, and in particular as it relates to Ozempic and some of these other medications that people are using. So I
actually was really just talking to a pharmacist the other day about Ozempic, and she was just saying like, my diabetes patients and people not on diabetes are like, aren't you so proud of me? Look at me making these health leaps and bounds. And she was like, I try to have the conversation with them of like, okay, yes, short-term health, like this happened, but what do you think's going to happen the second you stop taking it? And one of the girls in the group that was talking with us said, yeah, my friend quit taking it last week and she's already put on 5 to 10 pounds in a week after getting off it. I mean, it's just, I'm sorry, but health is a long-term game. There's just no ifs. You can't go around the problem. You got to go through the problem. You got to address the root issues.
For sure. All right. So I just want to transition because I feel like going from health to culture is a pretty easy transition. And I kind of want to give us a pat on the back as far as, as far as some of our predictions. This probably goes back to like, I would say 2021. And I kind of touched on this a little bit, but as we go through 2023, I think there's going to be, my prediction is there's going to be a lot more pushback in regards to people looking back at some of the policies we had in regards to COVID.
Oh, wow. You're really going hard. I'm like, woo, this week we are getting deep, babe.
So I
getting
really,
a little ballsy.
Yeah. I like a little controversy.
I hear ya.
So, but I think as we get further and further away from COVID and that whole time in our lives, people are going to start to ask more and more questions about what did we do and how is it going to affect us going forward? And I think specifically as it relates to our children and whether it's the lockdowns as far as the schools were concerned, the remote learning, I think the masking policies for children in schools, I mean, we've already seen there's numerous studies that show the reading levels of children has been decimated as far as their scores are concerned on standardized tests, and how much time and how these children are going to be pushed back as far as that learning process is concerned. And I'm sure there's going to be studies done as we move forward to really see those effects. And going back to giving us a little pat on the back, one of our biggest things was the masking policy as far as choosing a school that was not for masking children. And there was a time that the school that we were thinking about putting our children into, right before the school year started, they were going to start with the masking policy. And I will give the school that we attend a lot of credit. They asked any parents that had concerns about this policy to come in and actually talk with the superintendent. I give them a ton of credit for that. But I remember sitting down with the superintendent and discussing our concerns. And one of the concerns that I said was, masks, right now, we don't know how effective they are, but I'm more concerned about the mental health as it relates to our children moving forward in this developmental stage. Basically children learning facial cues, learning how to relate to people. These early years are so formative as far as that's concerned. And I think I even used the example of me personally, and I think a lot of people have this same kind of experience. When you're a child, you can become afraid of a lot of things very easily. You become very sick. For me personally, there was a time where I was very sick when I was young, and that stuck with me, and it still sticks with me today. And I still have some anxiety as far as getting severely ill. And I kind of compared that to what kind of effect and mindset instilling masks on children are going to have. Are they always going to be overly concerned about germs? Are they going to be, just all this anxiety that masking is involved with it? And what are the long-term effects? And that was really my main thing. And I think we got to give ourselves a pat on the back, because I do think the data is showing that the masking policies for children was wrong.
Completely wrong.
And I'm very, very interested to see where that goes. And I hope people look at the data, or what little data there is, showing the effectiveness of masks, especially the masks that they're recommending for children.
Yeah.
The cloth masks, which do nothing.
Well, and I'm going to give you an extra pat on the back.
Thanks.
Eric said from the very beginning when we started masking, he said, well, in the hospital, we all get properly fitted. And your sister said this too, right? For an N95 mask in the hospital.
Yep.
That is what is effective. The fact that they're making us basically do this theater of the cloth masks, which we know don't work against things like this, it was just truly, I felt like we were living in this like upside down clown world. It was bizarre to me.
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that. And I think more and more people, even the people that wanted to give everybody the benefit of the doubt with the policies that were being, recommended, even people that I listened to on other podcasts, or people that I talked to on a day-to-day basis, people that were hardcore, always wear your mask, we're all for limiting risk. Even them are starting to come around and just, talking about maybe a little skepticism as it relates to the different therapies that maybe were recommended during this time. And it's just really interesting. I'm starting to see a shift in the way people are viewing a lot of these policies, people that were hardcore that are starting to soften their stance. And I think that's only going to continue throughout 2023.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. And I also think that it was, and like you said, our thing was we support it if other people wanted to mask or mask their kids. That was fine. We just wanted the choice to choose for our family what would be best, whether Leighton should mask or not. And that,
For sure.
That was our main thing.
So I want to ask you more of a specific cultural question. I think this is right in your wheelhouse. I want you to give your prediction as far as where is social media going to go in 2023 and moving forward. And yeah, I have no idea what you're going to say or how you're going to take this question. I took it in a very specific way, but where do you think social media and the culture of social media is going as 2023 progresses?
Yeah, so that's definitely a loaded question for me, but I actually have just seen where, obviously TikTok came out and kind of just like blew everybody's minds with just the way that it functioned compared to other social media sites. And we saw where that made YouTube then not just have YouTube long videos. Now there's YouTube shorts. And now I think that short form video kind of became the thing. However, now Instagram got so lost in that now they have actually come back just recently and said, hey, we almost like lost our way a little bit. And we realized that actually what you guys loved us for was the beautiful photos. And so they are actually going to allow photos to start coming back this year. So you will start to see more photos in your Instagram feed. And you'll also see more YouTube shorts. You'll see more TikTok style stuff. But my hope is that Instagram will do a great job of encouraging people to, when they do produce reels, that they're more just relatable like TikTok is versus like this beautiful curated. What are you laughing at? What is happening?
I think you're giving Instagram a lot of just a lot of credit, or I don't think they're as wholesome or thinking of the general health of the public.
No, they're not. I didn't say that.
I mean, I just think like,
I'm sure they saw their stock going down and like not as many people getting on, and they're like, okay, we need to go back. We lost our way. We need to go back to the photos.
I gotcha.
I don't think that they have anything morally sound to say on the situation.
I hear you.
I mean, I don't like Instagram, and because I used to love it because it was the main way that I connected with you guys. It was our community, and I really felt like it did what it was supposed to do back then. Now I get censored if I share too much for too long, if I talk about things that are important to me, like natural health, thinking about things outside of just slapping a Band-Aid on everything, like we were talking about earlier. If I talk too much about my faith, and because of my faith, I want to support like speaking out against human trafficking. That's really important to me. So I've gotten a lot of slap on the wrist from Instagram in that way. And so that has been really hard. Mm-hmm. So it's not my favorite anymore.
Well, that's very good information for me. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that prediction comes out, because that's not where I was going with.
Yeah, answer it on your end.
Social media. And don't get me wrong, I am no social media expert like Heather is. But what I found very interesting, and this actually just came out yesterday, is that Senator Josh Hawley recently just put forward a bill to basically put an age restriction on TikTok for adolescents.
Good. We should.
So I think there's going to be a general pushback, especially as it relates to TikTok. And I think he's the tip of the spear as far as putting limitations on social media for adolescents. And I think specifically in his bill, it was limiting access to TikTok to people that are 16 or older. And I think in his bill, he was talking about parents would have to give permission. They would even have to prove, or the person to create an account would have to prove that they are over 16 years old.
Yeah.
And I really think that as we move forward, sometimes we're going to look at social media almost compared to some of the vices in the past that we looked at or we didn't look at as not being too healthy. You know, you can compare it to smoking. You can compare it to drunk driving. You know, just as early as the 1990s, you know, there were still people, you know, drinking and driving and not thinking a whole lot about it. And then, you know, the federal government stepped in, started putting basically more intense punishments as far as drinking and driving is concerned. There was a lot of ads that were effective to basically show the effects of drinking and driving. But I think we're going to look at social media and how it's affected adolescents. I think specifically adolescent females and how it's affected their overall health, specifically their emotional health and the damage that it's done. There's been no real studies on how much social media is too much social media. And I think there's going to be studies done as far as, hey, you know, an hour or 2 hours is the perfect amount of social media for this age group to basically maximize health. So I really think there's going to be more of a pushback, specifically as it relates to TikTok. I just think it is terrible for people's health. Just that short term, you know, instant gratification, going from one thing to the next. Mm-hmm. And I think there's going to be a lot of pushback to that and how it relates to adolescents.
Well, there's really scary studies already coming out about TikTok, and even just the things that we are served at certain ages and even in different countries. Like, I don't know how deep I should get into that, but if you look at what potentially like we are served in the United States, it's a lot of like we talked about this with Brent and Andy a little bit about social media boundaries, but they do not push to Americans a masculine male. Like that is not something that's picked up quickly in the algorithm. It's lots of dances, lots of things that don't really make you think. I found this fascinating. There is research coming out that is showing that in China, they're showing strong males, engineers, people that are really like incredibly intelligent and glorifying that. Whereas to us,
teaching skills, creating habits.
Yes. Versus to us, they're glorifying and showing in your algorithm really, I mean, frivolous things.
Frivolous, worthless, information. Worthless entertainment.
Yes. And if you have a kid on TikTok, I beg of you to be aware, put boundaries, don't let them have that phone and TikTok on their phone at night. Like, I cannot, this is like a soapbox of mine. It really freaks me out. And as a content creator that I have to be on it, but I'm not exaggerating. I delete the app off my phone unless I'm posting on there because I don't want to fall into that trap. And I think it would really suck me in. And it is scary what is out there for our kids.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's a good call to action. All right. So last topic, finances. All right. As in 2023, just quick lightning round. How do you see finances? And you maybe take this more of a micro approach as far as it relates to families, or just real quick, how do you think financially 2023 is going to go?
Well, first of all, let's talk about egg prices. It's insane. The grocery stores prices right now are out of control. And I talk with women every day about that with the meal planning ebook that I have. And I can certainly link that down below. But your budget can't be controlled in very many places. You have a fixed car rate. You have fixed home payment rate, you have a fixed mortgage, you have fixed all these things, but you don't have a fixed grocery budget. So I'd highly encourage you to meal plan because that helps you save money and save your health. So that's my little soapbox that I'll now step down from. But groceries have got to come back down soon, right? It's insane.
It's interesting you say that because that is one of the anecdotal stories that just a couple different people in the last couple of weeks have made basically that exact same comment. Have been, Eric, one of these food prices is going to come down, and I don't see them coming down anytime soon. There's still too much cash in the overall system, which is, causing inflation. It's not until there will be a correction as far as getting a lot of money out of the system that food prices will normalize. So my quick prediction in 2023 is that cash is going to be king. So if you have cash, try and hold on to cash because I do think there is a correction coming. And the reason why I say that just really briefly, looking at data, I think, during the height of COVID, a lot of people were saving money. They were staying home. They were getting payments. I think the total amount of savings in the US was around $2.1 trillion. The total amount of savings in the US now is around 900 billion. So it's almost been cut in half. So people are really digging into their savings to basically cover the costs of inflation, rising interest rates, things of that nature. And eventually those savings are going to run out. And when people stop spending money, consumer spending is a huge part of the US economy. And when people stop spending money at Target, at all these other stores, on their Amazon products, what happens next? These companies start to pull back jobs. And, then you talk about unemployment. And when people don't have money, that's how you get money out of the system. But unfortunately, the way that prices will normalize is through some kind of economic correction, that's my prediction. It may come true, it may not, but I do think there is going to be some kind of correction in 2023. You're starting to see it in some real estate markets and bigger real estate markets, whether it's Phoenix, LA, some markets in Florida as well too. We'll see. Be responsible with your money. Have that emergency fund for if something bad were to happen. And just be responsible.
Yeah, I agree. Planning ahead is something that will always behoove you. I mean, And you're really good at that. And I appreciate that. Eric helps us so much. I don't know anything about saving as far as like that big picture stuff. So I'm really thankful that he's the guy that does that in our relationship for sure. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for another episode of the Marriage Corner.
We'll see if our predictions are right.
Y'all comment down below.
Fun.
Let us know what you think about them. And then y'all please hit that follow button. It really does mean the world to us. When you follow us, you get notified every time that
where
we go live.
The follow button?
So if you're on Apple Podcasts, it's typically in the upper right-hand corner.
It's a plus, right?
It's a plus.
Like an ad.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And then if you're on Spotify or different platforms, I'm not as familiar with those, but I'm sure you are. So hit that plus button, give us a follow. And then that way you don't have to remember to go searching for us. We'll be right there for you every Tuesday morning. All right. Y'all have a great rest of your day and we'll talk to you later.
Hey, if you're loving the show, click that follow button on your podcast app. This will ensure you won't miss a single episode. I'll see you next time.